So again, my name is Gwen Sorley, and we will be chatting today about ADHD and sleep problems, the connection and consequences. During this webinar, I'm going to ask you to respond every once in a while. So when I do, please do interact with me using the chat box or the polls that I may put up on the screen. So I think we should start with the most obvious question. And I am going to start with a poll. So let me put that poll up on the screen, and you should be able to see this. How many hours of sleep did you get last night? So go ahead and you should see the poll, so you can just click in your answer, or you can type your answer in the chat box if for some reason you can't access the poll. Did you get 7 to 9 hours? 4 to 6 hours? Less than 4? Maybe even more than 9, or did you get no sleep at all? Go ahead and plug in your answer there. Great. And I'm going to end the poll. Oh, some of you are still putting in your answers. Okay, in 3, 2, 1, I'm going to end the poll. So many of you answered, and of our answers, 33% of you got 7 to 9 hours. 45% of you, most of you here today, only got 4 to 6 hours. 19% of you got less than 4 hours, and 2% got more than 9 hours. And I'm pleased to announce that no one reported no sleep at all. So that's a good thing. But the vast majority of you, 45% here today, only got 4 to 6 hours of sleep last night. So let's look at your answers, and then let's look at the actual recommended number of hours of sleep per night. Ages 6 to 12 should get 9 to 12 hours of sleep. Ages 13 to 18 should be getting 8 to 10 hours. And adults, that's most of you who responded, I'm certain, we should have gotten 7 to 9 hours of sleep. But most of you reported between 4 and 6 hours of sleep. So you may think, well, I got 6 hours, so what real difference would just an hour make, right? I lost maybe an hour of sleep, so it probably doesn't affect me that much. But even just 1 hour of sleep lost per night can have significant effect on your physical and mental health. When we look at statistics, and these are statistics during the week after daylight savings time. So this is in the springtime when we roll our clocks back and we all lose that 1 hour of sleep. So just look at the statistics here after that 1 hour loss, and you can see that that loss of time is associated with adverse health consequences. So if we look at cardiovascular disease alone, there was a 24 higher risk of heart attacks. Injuries did increase as well, with a 6% spike in fatal car accidents. The stroke rate increased by 8%, and mental health and cognitive issues had a spike of 11% in depressive episodes. So look at the effects that losing 1 hour of sleep in that springtime, when we all lose an hour, how it affects both our physical and our mental health. So getting enough sleep is really critically important. So go ahead, and as I said, we're going to interact a bit today. Go ahead and in the chat box, type in, how does a lack of sleep or just 1 hour less of sleep per night affect you or your child or your clients? Go ahead and type in that chat box and share some of the ways that a lack of sleep affects you or your loved ones or your clients. And I'm going to share some of these so you can see if you can relate. Let's see. Kristen says increased anxiety. Carolina says focus and mood. Kamla says mood impacted. Leslie says groggy, irritable, foggy. It seems like mood is the number one so far. Diane says easily agitated. Noreen says gives me foggy brain. Karen, lack of focus. Andrea, I find myself very tired during the day. Javier says I'm sleepy the whole day and can't focus and can't finish important tasks. Mary says 1 hour sleep makes me more irritable. Carolina says energy levels. Sandra, mind fog, irritability. Emma, unable to focus. Alexandra, mood swings. Daniela, mental fog, feel less creative. Kylie, it dramatically affects my mood and attention. So far, it looks like mood and attention are the number one things you're reporting. Stephanie says increased inattention, increased difficulty concentrating. Kristen says more argumentative. Jody, brain fog. Stephanie, difficulty getting to school. Sylvie, lack of concentration. Christy, hard to focus at work. And Kimberly, I lack motivation to work. Irritable, I feel myself falling asleep mid-sentence. Layla says it causes me to be more irritable, tired, and depressed. It also triggers my anxiety. Tamala says it affects focus and sometimes mood. Stephanie, decreased patience, irritable, difficulty learning, very good. Adrienne says irritable, overwhelmed, unproductive. And Charlotte says irritable, brain fog, bad mood. So all of you are really giving good responses, but you can see how similar your responses are. And these are some of the symptoms of sleepiness. Many of you reported these very symptoms. Difficulty with focus. Many of you said that brain fog kicks in. Slower processing speed, memory deficits, poor decision-making, emotional outbursts. That was one big one that everyone kept saying, that you're irritable, you have less patience, so that emotional outbursts can occur. Lack of impulse control, challenges with learning. Someone here said difficulty with learning, and overall weak executive function. So if we look at this list, just review this list. Symptoms of sleepiness. Does this list look familiar to you? Have you seen this list before associated with something other than sleepiness? That's right. Luz says, and Stephanie says ADHD, of course. So the symptoms of ADHD, difficulty with focus, slower processing speeds, memory deficits, poor decision-making, emotion outbursts, lack of impulse control, challenges with learning, weak executive function. The symptoms of ADHD and the symptoms of sleepiness are very, very similar. So that brings us to the question, because there is a large connection to ADHD and sleep. Science Daily, reports that 75% of children and adults with ADHD also struggle with sleep problems. So that brings us to our question: what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? Does ADHD lead to sleep problems, or do sleep problems lead to ADHD symptoms? Let's look at the connection a little bit deeper as we consider that chicken or egg kind of question. We know that 78% of adults with ADHD have delayed circadian rhythm. Now, many of you may have heard this fact before, and you've heard about delayed circadian rhythm But do you know what that actually means? If we look at what circadian rhythm is, circadian rhythms are physical, mental, and behavioral changes that follow a 24-hour cycle. So that is to say, a light-related circadian rhythm is sleepiness, right? A light-related circadian rhythm is being awake during the day and asleep at night. So if your circadian rhythm, if that circadian rhythm is delayed, that means certain events like sleepiness is delayed. So those individuals, those 78% of ADHD adults who also have delayed circadian rhythm. And how many of you here, raise your hand if you believe or know yourself to be ADHD and have delayed circadian rhythm? Yeah, you can use the raise your hand icon. Some of you are typing in, so that's great as well. So many of you say that you fall into that category of ADHD and delayed circadian rhythm. So if you fall into that category, that means that you are getting sleepy later on. So you're not falling asleep as early as you should. And you're also not getting the quality of sleep that you should. So the number of hours you're getting of sleep is decreased, and the quality of that sleep is also decreased. Now, not only that, but we know that many people with ADHD experience sleep disorders like sleep apnea and restless leg syndrome. And sleep disorders decrease both the quality and the quantity of sleep. Now, it's really interesting, I thought, that restless leg syndrome may affect about 1% of children overall. However, 44% of children with ADHD may also have restless leg syndrome. That's pretty significant. And that can affect your child's sleep patterns. They're not getting good quality sleep. They're not getting enough sleep. So of course, when they get into the school setting, that can show up as behavioral issues or difficulties with focus. Percival says, the quality of my sleep is poor, even if I get the recommended 7 to 9 hours. And yes, well, that could be related to much of what we're discussing today. So even if you are in bed and you are getting that sleep, you're not having that quality sleep, which will then lead to those symptoms we talked about earlier. Noreen, yes, I can provide you with links to the research. We actually have an ebook that we're going to send out along at the end of this webinar. So you'll be able to see some of the research links in that ebook as well. Let's see, there are a couple other comments here. Melissa says, I also have fibromyalgia, which makes it so I can't get into that REM cycle. So you're not getting that quality sleep either. Very good. Okay. Now, there's also research out there, and this is in the ebook that we'll be sending out later today, that some research suggests that hyperactivity is actually a strategy the brain might use to keep itself awake. In a 2010 study, researchers found that the presence of sleep onset insomnia was more present in those who had ADHD with hyperactivity, as opposed to those who had ADHD inattentive type. So think about that one more time, what we're saying there, that individuals who had ADHD and hyperactivity were more likely to have sleep onset insomnia than those individuals who had ADHD and were simply inattentive. They didn't have that hyperactivity. So that leads to many researchers thinking that the brain uses that hyperactivity to keep the brain awake. So, of course, all of that, talking about how there's so much connection between ADHD and sleep problems, brings us back to our question. Is ADHD causing the sleep issues, or are sleep issues causing the ADHD symptoms? It seems that they are bilateral comorbidities. Both both ADHD and sleep problems begin in the brain. So they may have the same underlying cause, with the symptoms of one exacerbating the symptoms of the other. It's really hard to know where one ends and the other begins. Now, this is really important for you to know, because when we look at ADHD and sleep problems, if you have ADHD and sleep problems, then your symptoms of a lack of focus, difficulties with memory, weak executive function, emotion dysregulation, all of those symptoms we talked about earlier are actually exacerbated by the fact that you're not getting enough sleep. So knowing this fact really makes it critically important that you take steps in order to make certain you get a better night's sleep. Now, many of these tips that I'm going to share with you today, you've probably heard of before. And while I'm going over these tips, if you want to share some of your own thoughts and some of the strategies you've used that have helped you, that would be fantastic. And then I can share that with everyone in the group as well. And these tips and strategies that I'm going to mention now will be in that ebook as well. So let's talk about some tips you can take today in order to get a better night's sleep. And this really should not only apply to yourself, but apply to your partner, your clients. You can share this information. And also, these are strategies you can use with your children. So we need to focus on good sleep hygiene. And good sleep hygiene, these are habits that can help you improve your sleep. Stick to a sleep schedule. And you probably have heard this a million times, but now you know that it is critically important that you actually are able to stick to that sleep schedule, because you need, if you're an adult, 7 to 9 hours. And if you stick to a sleep schedule, being consistent reinforces your body's sleep and wake cycle. So that means, though, that if you go to bed at 10 o'clock on Monday, you go to bed at 10 o'clock on Saturday. I know that can't always happen because sometimes you have events going on that you can't avoid on the weekends, but as much as possible, even on the weekend, you should get up and go to sleep at the same time that you do during the week. And what you'll notice, if you really stick with this, you're going to notice that your body adjusts. And many of you will no longer need an alarm clock, because your body will naturally know when it's time to wake up and naturally know when it's time to go to sleep. Okay. So Sandra says, how to get schedule going, because you can't make yourself fall asleep. So versus waking with an alarm. So some of these steps too will help you fall asleep faster, so that you will get that quality sleep and you will be able to get up on time. Pay attention to what you eat and drink. So you don't want to go to bed hungry, and you don't want to go to bed really stuffed. So you should avoid big, heavy meals about 2 hours before you go to sleep, because discomfort, of course, is going to make it very difficult for you to fall asleep. Nicotine, caffeine, and alcohol deserve caution too. So nicotine and caffeine, right, are stimulants. So it's important to avoid those because that stimulant takes a while to actually wear off in your system. So that's going to affect your sleep. And although alcohol may help you go to sleep earlier, it will disrupt your sleep oftentimes. So you want to be very cautious about nicotine, caffeine, and alcohol. You want to limit daytime naps. Usually long daytime naps can interfere with nighttime sleep. So limit your naps to no more than an hour, and you don't want to take those naps late in the afternoon because that is certainly going to disrupt your bedtime. You want to include physical activity in your daily routine. Regular physical activity can promote better sleep. However, you don't want to work out really close to sleep time. And it looks like it does vary for everyone, but you really want to avoid working out between 90 minutes and 3 hours before sleep. So if you can schedule your workout regimen a little bit earlier in the day, even the first thing in the morning, that early morning regimen of working out is really going to help you fall asleep later at nighttime. Spending time outside also is helpful. Now, let's talk about creating a restful environment and routine. You want to keep your room quiet and very, very dark. One exercise you can do is turn off all your lights, get ready for bed, and then put your hand in front of your face. And if you can still see any part of your hand, then your room is not dark enough. So you want to avoid any light emitting screens, turn off all your screens at least 30 minutes prior to sleep. And you can even consider using room darkening shades or earplugs. And you'll be surprised if you do this tonight. You know, you might think, no, my bedroom's pretty dark. It's pretty dark. I don't have a lot of light emitting in my room. And so we did this last night. My husband and I turned off all the lights, got in bed like we typically would, and then we counted all of the light sources in our room. And there were 9 different light sources. So we had 2 alarm clocks. So those both were emitting light. There was the light from the cable box. I know TV should not be in the bedroom, but it's there. So you had that light from the cable box. We had my husband's cell phone. So that had light. That shouldn't be in there either. So there were 9 different light sources that we hadn't even really considered. And if you think about that light, if we go back to that circadian rhythm, remember a light-related circadian rhythm is being awake during the day and asleep at night. So when you have light that is seeping into your bedroom, you are actually affecting your circadian rhythm. So it is going to disrupt your sleep. You're going to get poorer quality sleep, and you're not going to get enough sleep, most likely. Okay. Also, you can do calming activities before bedtime, such as taking a warm bath or practicing relaxation techniques. I know many of you here might do a little bit of mindfulness, or perhaps you're doing yoga. And when you talk about these restful routines before bed, it's going to take a while to formulate and really make this a habit. So start today, maybe just thinking about the room and how noisy it might be. Is there too much noise, or is there too much light? And take care of that. And then maybe think about some calming activities you can start incorporating before bed. Maybe it's a breathing exercise. Maybe it's a little yoga or a mindfulness practice. And just start doing that. Maybe an hour before bed, you start a new routine to actually get yourself ready. So I know that many people, if they're going to sleep, they want to be asleep by 10 o'clock. They start that routine by 9 o'clock. So set an alarm for yourself, set a reminder for yourself at 9 o'clock tonight, and start working on this routine. So by the time 10 o'clock rolls around, you're drifting off to sleep. Also, you want to manage your worries, because I know many of us here start running through our mind everything that might happen, or everything that did happen, or everything that we're worried about as soon as our head hits the pillow. So try to manage your worries. And a good way to do this is to jot down whatever is on your mind before you go to bed. So if you have a journal next to your bed, and you just write down all of the things you're thinking about or worried about, or things that you have to get done, anything that's on your mind, that act of actually writing it down can actually help you stop thinking about it so that you can get to sleep. Also, as you're writing those things, it's always good to write a few things about what you're grateful for. Ending your day with a little bit of gratitude is a great way to get a good night's sleep. Have those good thoughts as you get into bed. Now, let me see if I have any other suggestions from the group. Someone asked if we can share these ideas from other people. So let me see if I have some more. Let's see. Looks like a lot of you are saying the same things that were in our list, so that's good. Lila says, in terms of the worries, don't avoid it. That will trigger it. Acknowledge it, then let it go. Say hello to the worry, then say goodbye. That's a great way to say it. Adrienne, sometimes I use sleep stories. I think that's a great idea. Yes. Javier, avoid heavy work in the night. Yes, I agree with that as well. That will just keep your mind very, very active. Mary says it helps her if you have a partner, go to bed the same time as your partner. Excellent. And Noreen says practice body scans, guided imagery. That's a good way to do it as well. You do that guided imagery. You can find a lot of those online, or you can just bring yourself through that body scan. Think about your toes. You can really tighten your toes and then relax them, and then move all the way up to your body. And before you know it, usually by the time you get to about your waist, you've gone to sleep. Percival says, I use white noise machine. I find it calming and dead silence unnerving, but I wonder if white noise is actually worsening the sleep quality somehow. I think that would vary from person to person. I don't actually know. I know it wouldn't help me personally, but that may be something that you really take a look at and see if you're getting a better night's sleep if you don't use any of that. Carolina says, not going to bed dehydrated. That's a good point too. Stephanie says, maybe try brown noise instead. That's a good idea too. And actually that's interesting because we are going to have some information coming out in an upcoming blog about brown noise and ADHD as well. So all of you have great ideas, and I really encourage you to take some of these steps very seriously, because again, if you have ADHD, or if your child has ADHD, or your partner has ADHD and sleep difficulties, remember all of those symptoms are just exacerbated by the sleep difficulties. And here are not all of the benefits, but some of the benefits of a good night's sleep. Improves executive function. And we talk about that all the time, about how to improve executive function. So getting a good night's sleep can improve executive function, improves your focus, improves your impulse control, improves your memory, puts you in a better mood, boosts your immune system, can strengthen your heart, and increase productivity. All very important reasons to get a good night's sleep. However, another really important reason to get a good night's sleep is that sleep prepares the brain for learning. So we know from much research that's been done, a good night's sleep is critically important before learning takes place, but it's equally as important after learning takes place. So if you get a good night's sleep before the learning process, that helps you be more focused. It helps your brain prepare itself to learn new material. But after you learn that new material, you must get a good night's sleep, because during sleep, especially during deep sleep, that REM sleep, is where all of your experiences and that new information and your memories are created. So all of that new information is solidified. It's organized so that all of that learning that takes place is moved and filed in your brain system, in your filing system in the brain. So it's really important that you get a good night's sleep before you learn and also after you learn new information. So we talked about taking steps in order to improve your sleep, but let's take it one step further, because we know those symptoms of ADHD overlap with the symptoms of sleep problems or sleepiness. So let's combine a good night's sleep with a customized program that will help you improve executive function. And that's where play attention can come in. You know, you're going to take all of these steps to prepare your brain for learning, and play attention can customize a plan for you or your child or your clients to pinpoint the different cognitive skills that right now may be weak for you, but are necessary for strong executive function. And we do this in a really unique way, in that we integrate feedback technology with cognitive skill training and behavior shaping to provide you with the most comprehensive approach available. If you have not yet seen our body wave technology, this is our NASA-inspired body wave technology. And it's a little hard to see on there because I have my screen sharing a little bit odd here, but there are sensors on the back. And those sensors, so you'll have that on your arm, and those sensors monitor your brain activity that tells us how attentive you are. And then that information is given over to the computer, where you're allowed to control all of our cognitive exercises just with your mind, or more specifically, your attention alone. And you receive constant and immediate feedback as to whether or not you truly are focused and paying attention. So many of you have been experienced difficulty with attention and focus. Our program is going to actually allow you to experience your attentive state in real time. And not only that, but we have a variety of cognitive skills that you will activate with your attentive state. So when we're looking at a customized plan for you, we can address any of these cognitive skill areas that you see on the screen right now. We can address attention stamina, visual tracking, task completion, short-term memory, your ability to filter distractions, working memory, auditory processing, hand-eye coordination, social skills, mental math, spatial memory, and mindfulness. All of these cognitive skill areas are available to you. And what's important for you to keep in mind is that all of these exercises are brain enabled, because remember, you're going to be wearing that body wave armband. And as long as you are paying attention, as long as you are actively engaged, you're going to be able to activate the activity. If you're not paying attention, then the activity will stop, or the character will go in the wrong direction, and you have to focus back in order to continue. And the reason we do this is because we know the very first catalyst necessary for brain change is attention. And so that's why we make certain that whenever you're working on all of these cognitive areas that are required for strong executive function, that you are actively engaged. Now, if you're wondering what cognitive areas should I work on? If I start a play attention program, there were a lot of different cognitive areas. So what areas do I need to strengthen? If you want more information on that, we do have assessments available. We have Focus, which is a norm reference test of attentional control. It's computer-based. It takes about 20 minutes. And at the end of the 20 minutes, we receive a full report that tells us how you performed, or your child or your clients performed compared to the performance of their peers. We also have the Brief available, which is a behavior rating of executive function. And so those assessments are available to you. If you're interested in finding out which cognitive skill areas do you need to improve in order to reach your goals, in order to improve executive function, you can take an assessment with us, either one or both. They're typically $50 a piece, but with this webinar special, you buy one, get the second one free. And so with this webinar special, you buy one assessment and get the other one free. And that will actually allow us to assess your particular skill areas and what we need to address further in order to help you reach your goals. And we do need about a 40-minute block of time once the assessments have completed so that we can review the results with you and talk about those results and talk about a customized plan that may work for you to help you improve executive function and self-regulation. If you're interested in doing an assessment, go ahead and type assessment, and we will make certain to reach out to you so that we can either provide you with more information or get you registered for one of those or both of those assessments. Now, many of you are still typing in suggestions for to help people go to sleep at night, and some of you are typing in questions about play attention. So do please keep those questions coming, because I will go back to everyone's questions at the end. And if you want to learn more about the assessment or register for the assessments, just simply type in assessment and we'll follow up with you very shortly to help you with the assessment process. So let's look at a little summary. A good night's sleep is critical for both the health of your body and the health of your mind. Adults should be getting at least 7 hours of sleep per night. Losing just 1 hour of sleep can have adverse effects on your health, both your physical health and your cognitive function. ADHD and sleep problems, the symptoms of one exacerbate the symptoms of the other. You can take steps, and many of you have shared more steps here. You can take some steps to improve your sleep. And improving your sleep can improve your focus, memory, impulse control, executive function, all of those different benefits that we talked about earlier. So it truly is critical for you to think about those steps we talked about. And as I mentioned earlier, after this webinar, you're going to receive an email from us that will have our ebook, a link for our ebook. So you'll be able to go ahead and access our ebook on the tips and strategies you can take today in order to improve your sleep. Okay. So please do keep your questions and your comments coming. And I'm going to talk about some of the next steps that you can take. One thing I want you to keep in mind is that we are going to have another sleep webinar, because this one was so very popular and there was so much you could actually talk about on this very topic. We thought we would extend it into a part 2. So in January, we're going to have another sleep webinar, which is the secret life of your brain while you sleep. And now here are some of the next steps that you can take. One is that you can register for that assessment. And remember, the assessment does come with a consultation follow-up. So if you typed in assessment, we'll follow up with you regarding the assessment, and that does come with the consultation follow-up. If you do not need an assessment, because I know I talked to many of you who say, well, we already went through a neuropsych evaluation. We have a 20-page report. So if you don't need an assessment, you don't really feel that that's important for you particularly, and you just want to have a conversation about your specific needs and your goals, then type in consultation and we'll reach out to you for a one-on-one consultation with one of our advisors. So assessment or consultation, you can come to our next Play Attention webinar because many of you have specific questions about play attention here. So if you want to attend our next webinar, which is next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, that is going to be specifically about play attention. We'll talk about play attention's educational foundation, about our NASA-inspired body wave technology, about all of the cognitive skill areas we address and how they transfer and generalize back into the classroom, back into the workplace or at home. So if you want to attend that webinar, just type in webinar and we'll be certain to get you registered. And of course, if you want to be updated about the webinar in January, type in January. So I know that's the webinar you want to be updated about. Type in January if you want us to update you when that sleep webinar is posted, and you can register for the next sleep webinar. So again, type in assessment. That does come with the consultation. If you just want the consultation, type in consultation. If you want to come to our Play Attention webinar, type in webinar, or if you want to be updated about the next sleep webinar, type in January. Or if you just want all of the above, you can certainly type in all of the above. Now, I am going to go back and read some of the comments you had because some of you had some really good questions and really good comments. So I'm going to go back to those right now. However, if any of you need to leave now, because I know we've gone for about 45 minutes, so maybe some of you need to go on to your next activity. And if that is true, I want to say to you, thank you for coming. I really do appreciate your time. I hope that you learned some new information today. I hope you really understand why it is critically important we take some steps to improve our sleep schedule, and that we get enough sleep every night, because sleep is critically important to both your body and your mind. Thank you so much, everyone. If you're staying for the rest of the comments from the group and questions from the group, fantastic. If you do have to go, I look forward to chatting with you in an upcoming consultation or seeing you next week at our webinar. Thanks so much, everyone.